everyone, and welcome to Gym Challenge 28 here in Pico Rivera, California for our lovely little premiere challenge here at Psycho Center Plays. My name is Coronel. Joining alongside me is Dennis Geisler, and it's good to be back here in this Gym Challenge so that we can finally get back to, you know, looking at all these fantastic Pokemon players. And our first matchup is going to be Pongsukan Kingsukhon against Thomas Park. And for the rest of the scene, we're going to be referencing Pongsukan as PK.
Yeah, and it's the senior division matchup here between these two. Thomas bringing the Incineroar, Ogerpon, Wellspring, Fluttermane, Landorus Incarnate, Amoonguss, Urshifu Single Strike, PK with Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Indeedee Female, Tornadus Incarnate, Fluttermane, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Iron Crown. Always love to see the early day seniors matchups. The future of the scene, as you may say.
It is the future. We have seen several seniors do so well in, you know, the Masters division or like in the World team. I mean, we've seen people like right now we have Toller Webb and James Evans, both former seniors world champions, and both of them already won a regional this season.
Exactly. The advancements of the scene. In any case, for this particular matchup, we've got the two Ogerpons, the Wellspring versus the Hearthflame, the two most popular forms at this point, and very different ideas about kind of what they go for. I'm not sure if we're going to see a ton of either of them in this matchup, to be honest, but certainly see.
You also have two different Urshifus, as we have both the Single Strike and the Rapid Strike form. Both of them wanting to do like completely different things here between Thomas and PK here, but here we go. We're going to go into round number one here. PK going to go ahead and lead the Iron Crown and Fluttermane combination. Thomas Park going to lead Urshifu Single Strike and Fluttermane. Let's have a look. See, there is a booster energy from Thomas's Fluttermane, and it is going to be that booster for the speed boost. And that probably does signal an Icy Wind incoming, because that's the way most Fluttermanes have been trained. And then Iron Crown going to go ahead and raise that special attack as we saw it yesterday for those who were watching that day. But either way, both teams have to deal with at least some form of speed control.
Yeah, and this is a good spot for Thomas's Urshifu to be in with a lot of good targets, but it also has to obviously be concerned about what this Fluttermane might do. An Icy Wind, as he mentioned, is a pretty good option here to just get the to get Thomas's Fluttermane or to get Thomas's Urshifu ahead of both of these Pokemon, but it might end up in kind of a read situation where one of those two Pokemon on PK's side is going to Terra, and if Thomas picks incorrectly, it might end up being a pretty bad couple of turns.
Yeah, and speaking of the Terra does pop on PK's Iron Crown, going into that water typing to make sure it is no longer weak to both Ghost and Dark, which Thomas is threatening with both the Fluttermane and the Urshifu. Fluttermane goes for the Icy Wind for Thomas's end. I believe this might have missed the Fluttermane, and it did. Yeah, and it's going to miss the Fluttermane, meaning Iron Crown's going to suffer the speed drop, but that was probably the more important Pokemon to get that speed drop on. Dazzling Gleam going to do considerable amount of damage to both Pokemon. Urshifu goes down to Focus Sash, and Fluttermane for Thomas goes down to around 50% health. Wicked Blow enough for a one-hit knockout with a critical hit. Unfortunately, there was no Focus Sash to be seen, and now PK's Iron Crown has a chance to move. It's going to be the Tachyon Cutter, and we're just trading Fluttermanes. Yeah, trading Fluttermanes. Well called out by Thomas at the very least to pick out the right target for the Wicked Blow on the Terra. I think that ended up going reasonably well. Still, the miss on the Icy Wind was rough because you probably lose Fluttermane regardless to the Tachyon Cutter, but you would have a full health, full Focus Sash Urshifu if that Icy Wind hit instead of what you have now, which is still a decent spot to be in. And your two Pokemon do outspeed now, but awkward spot regardless. Yeah, and speaking of awkward, it's going to be a little bit more awkward now for Thomas to deal with the situation, as now Psychic Terrain is set from the Indeedee from PK's end. Meaning expanding force now against a spread move, although it won't touch Urshifu, it will do a big amount of damage to his Landorus, and this Landorus Incarnate looks pretty set to just fire off Earth powers. Yeah, and this is a Rocky Helmet Indeedee, so Urshifu will not necessarily want to just launch a Wicked Blow into it and drop, even though it might drop the Indeedee straight up. It's a weird spot to, I guess a Follow Me from the Indeedee would be able to draw away the Urshifu's pressure
and potentially drop it regardless. The Sucker Punch is interesting.
Yeah, because unfortunately Sucker Punch will not work because it is a priority move as both Pokemon are touching the ground. Importantly, no Follow Me came out from the Indeedee, as we're going to see Dazzling Gleam just take the knockout on the Urshifu, as Iron Crown was able to take an Earth Power from the Landorus. Terra Blast comes out. This is a double knockout.
I think it will be indeed. This is going to do a ton of damage. And I don't hate the idea from Thomas to call out a Follow Me and try to avoid dropping, although you'd probably just want to go for a Detect instead in that situation. But now I think PK pretty much has this one wrapped up, with the Iron Crown being much faster and having that Terra Water, Terra Blast to clean up the match. Even if the Terra comes out, should be fine. Still one more Pokemon in the back.
Yeah, still one more Pokemon in the back for Pongsukan. You know, he's dealt his hand, and so far his Iron Crown's been delivering. Even though you did take that speed drop from the Icy Wind, you're still dealing the damage that you necessarily want to do. And I guess going for okay, you know, we got a helping hand coming out from this Indeedee into this Iron Crown, so it's going to be packing a punch with this next move if it even gets to, and not another knockout the Iron Crown because the booster energy was consumed. Terra Blast now resisted to this Grass type Incineroar, even with the helping hand and the special attack boost. It's not doing a whole lot of damage. It's gonna be, I think, an interesting spot if Thomas can actually control the situation pretty well with this Incineroar.
Yeah, and
helping hand comes out again.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I actually forgot the Iron Crown's at -1 speed. I was like, why is it so slow? Yeah, it'll be kind of a slow wrap up. I guess it'll depend on what the last Pokemon is, but I don't think any Pokemon the last Pokemon could be would struggle against Incineroar at this point.
It would have to depend on what is the last Pokemon for PK's end. It's Ogerpon,
yeah.
Meaning that Terra is not going to be a good thing right now because Ivy Cudgel now super effective against this Incineroar.
Yeah, Ivy Cudgel's just going to wrap this one up now.
Although it was very important for Thomas to play out the rest of the match to figure out what Pongsukan
just finding out that the Ogerpon's there is definitely good. Yeah, I don't think that Thomas played that horrifically. I think that the Icy Wind miss was definitely bad, and it would have definitely provided a bit of extra opportunity, because then you don't have to necessarily worry as much about the matchup against the Indeedee later. That Dazzling Gleam would have still done a bunch of damage, but it would not have been a one-shot. It couldn't have been. It was a Focus Sash. You potentially could have even, I don't know if it takes the Dazzling Gleam regardless, but could have potentially just tried to focus down the Indeedee, because even if it breaks your Sash, so be it. You take down that Pokemon and you still have your Urshifu standing there.
Yeah,
certainly a lot of things went wrong down the line for Thomas, and I don't think going with a fairly similar playstyle is a terrible idea, but for PK definitely ended up having the better end of a lot of that. I think that Thomas is a way back into this series, though.
Yeah, Thomas definitely has an idea how to deal with this team. It's just like PK had a better, result out of that Icy Wind miss, which again was important because it took Urshifu down to Focus Sash, which they really did not appreciate. Although he got the turn correct, bad luck just struck at the worst time, and it looked like that was honestly a winnable game for Thomas if that Icy Wind miss did not happen.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of. It's the sort of thing where it's like, that's why Pokemon's best of 3, that's why you have to accept that sometimes things don't go your way and adapt for the next couple of games. Do you go with the same lead, or do you go with kind of a different thing? Say, okay, I think you're going to change things up, or I think I have something better in this matchup to do something with. And on PK's side as well, I'm curious to see, because that was a very... I think the lead it worked at the end of the day, but I think it kind of didn't work in a lot of ways. I think the Fluttermane kind of ends up matching up weird against this team, because Fluttermane versus Fluttermane, Thomas's has the speed and has the Icy Wind, which really shuts down those Specs Fluttermane variants, which is what PK has.
Yeah, I was about to mention the whole Specs Fluttermane, because that actually did so much damage to Thomas's Fluttermane from PK's end.
Yeah.
And now we go into game 2 now between PK and Thomas. PK going to switch it up a little bit, going Tornadus Ogerpon here for a bit of speed pressure. Thomas switching it up as well, going Urshifu Single Strike and the Ogerpon Wellspring. It's pretty interesting to see what both these trainers will like to do, but I think these Ogerpons are going to have a big decision to make.
Yeah, I like the decision from both of these players to get the Ogerpon out here sooner. I guess it's just a big question, so just checking. Yeah, this is, on PK's side, it is Rain Dance Torn, not Sunny Day. does have the Urshifu Rapid Strike along with it, so that's why the Rain Dance is there. But in this case, not really able to support that Ogerpon much further than it will right now.
Yeah, and we're going to see a whoa, weird animation there from the Terra, or activating from Thomas's Ogerpon. Going to go ahead and shine that Wellspring Mask to activate an body aspect for not only a big water boost, but also a special defense boost.
Yeah.
Which will be coming in handy against this Bleakwind Storm if it's incoming from Pongsukan, but I also believe PK will just go for the tail end here as Thomas protects their Urshifu with that move, and Spiky Shield comes out from PK's Ogerpon, and it is just going to hit the Ivy Cudgel. Bleakwind Storm is coming out from this Torn because it did not go for a non-damaging move. Better question, does it connect into this Ogerpon Wellspring of Thomas?
Yeah, and
it does.
Oh yeah, even more so I'm curious if it drops the speed. That'll be, it shouldn't be too important. I think the Hearth Flame is probably going to be trained faster than the Wellspring. Yeah. I don't think the Tailwind's super necessary because of that, because the what's it called? Because the side of PK is just faster baseline, and so you can get the Tailwind set up later if you need it.
Well, it's faster unless there's a Sucker Punch incoming from the Urshifu.
Faster unless there's a Sucker Punch.
And there's a Tailwind anyway. So we're just setting at Tailwind to make sure that PK side is always going to be faster here. Horn Leech into this Ogerpon. Yeah, that's why you should not Terra your Ogerpon this early, because now you become susceptible to that Grass type attack, and now Ogerpon gets to clean up the other Ogerpon. And Thomas now has an Urshifu to do what it can do, which is Wicked Blow into the other Ogerpon of PK. It only does around 55%.
Yeah, Ogerpon takes that hit at the very least. I like that turn quite a bit from PK, just saying, okay, yeah, I liked how that first turn went broadly, and I think this is going to go fine. Overall, it's just read around the Urshifu really well, and this Urshifu has been kind of totally shut down in this game number 2 so far. Obviously, it did some decent damage there, but now this Ogerpon with the Tailwind does outspeed everything. It should still, yeah, it should definitely outspeed the Flutter Mane.
Yeah, it definitely should after the Tailwind that's been set up, even against that booster energy speed.
Yeah, even against the booster, it should still outspeed.
Yeah, and there's a prompt to protect from Thomas's Flutter Mane. PK has a lot of leverage to do whatever they want to do here, and yeah, we just see an Ivy Coach going into this Flutter Mane just to mitigate the threat of that support role that it has to do here. Bleakwind Storm is going to be coming out from this Tornadus, and it connects into the Urshifu single strike, going down to Focus Sash.
Yeah, and that's definitely a nice nice touch for PK, although it does mean you lose the Ogerpon there.
Yeah, Wicked Blow unfortunately going to take the knockout there onto PK's Ogerpon. And now this Urshifu, once again, is in a weird spot where it's like, you did not... Now this time, no luck was involved, other than like maybe a couple of Bleakwind Storms. But now you're just in this weird spot as Ndidi comes in here, where you could Sucker Punch Tornadus, but it's not going to be anywhere close to a knockout.
Yeah, well, and you can't Sucker Punch Tornadus anymore.
If Follow Me comes out, obviously.
It's Psychic Terrain.
But Tornadus is flying.
Tornadus is flying, yeah, I always forget that interaction. So bizarre.
Yeah, but like even if you do go for the Sucker Punch onto the Tornadus, it's not going to be doing that for a knockout.
Yeah, it won't be a knockout, and frankly, I think Ndidi is a nice spot for a Follow Me right now. I think at this point you can actually start using Tornadus as your like offensive threat on the field right now. Just keep launching out Bleak Winds or even an Icy Wind and try to get that Flutter Mane down to a more manageable spot, especially depending on what you have as your last Pokemon in the back, especially if it's like Flutter Mane.
Yeah, and we're going to see Thomas switch out the Urshifu single strike for that Landorus Incarnate that he packs in the whole a lot of, and we're going to see a Helping Hand come out instead of Follow Me from this Ndidi, so we are going to want to get a lot of damage from this Tornadus, but instead Flutter Mane is going to be able to outspeed PK's Tornadus as Bleakwind Storm double connects onto both of Thomas' Pokemon, and importantly gets a speed drop in the Landorus.
Yeah, and I think we did. The small thing that we saw there, I believe, is that Flutter Mane even Flutter Mane outspeeds the Tornadus even through Tailwind, which is a crazy amount of speed. Would have been really exciting if the Icy Wind had come out there. But at this point, it is actually a pretty good spot for Thomas. Flutter Mane is in a nice spot to just keep launching things out. Landorus is slow now, but Flutter Mane should still just outspeed and just keep launching out damage.
Instead, here we see Thomas's Lander just go for the protect to make sure it survives another turn here. Follow Me would be the option because you know that Flutter Mane's faster than the Tornadus, and good Moonblast would be enough to take a knockout from that range. Instead, it's going to be doing minimal damage to that Indeedee. We're going to see the Tornadus go for the Bleak Wind Storm into the protect, and it connects once again to the Flutter Mane. It is enough for another knockout, and he goes for it again, and another speed drop happens to the Flutter Mane, and Tailwind's gone for PK.
Yeah, Tailwind's gone, but the speed drop is really big. If we knew what PK had in the back, we'd kind of know if Tailwind needed to be up here. I think it's a good idea to get Tailwind back up here. This does mean that Indeedee's attacking as well.
Ooh, yeah, but instead, Icy Wind is once again going to be faster than both Indeedee and Tornadus, and the speed drop's going to happen to the Indeedee, but not the Tornadus, as it is the Covert Cloak. Dazzlingly not enough for a double knockout on both of these Pokemon. Earth Power will finish off the Indeedee. Tornadus might have another turn to interact because of those speed drops they got earlier, and thankfully with the Covert Cloak to make sure it didn't get speed dropped itself.
Yeah, and it's Iron Crown in the back. Not ideal. If it had been the Flutter Mane, I think this battle is over. With the Iron Crown, it's still a good spot for PK though, because I think you can just use Expanding Force here, and worst case scenario, or Shifu comes in. But even then, I think you can do something like an Expanding Force, Bleak Wind, and the two Pokemon are going to get knocked out unless they protect.
Yeah, and we're going to see the Flutter Mane switch out into that Urshifu Single Strike. That's still at 1 HP. All of Thomas' Pokemon are all very low HP, so it's dangerous territory against all of PK's offensive utility. And PK's yet to use their Terra. They're going to use it now, and they're going to go ahead and tear the Iron Crown to water.
Yeah, nice choice. Doesn't really mean a whole lot, but
it means a lot against Earth Power, if anything.
It means a decent amount against Earth Power, but
Landers gets a double protect, actually.
Wow.
So he gets a double protect, so it's going to survive another turn at the very least. Tornadus goes for the Icy Wind, trying to pick off both of these Pokemon at once. Connects to the Urshifu, so down it goes. And now we're going to see Flutter Mane and Landorus against Iron Crown and Tornadus.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the Flutter Mane, it's coming back in without the speed drop, but it's also coming back in without the booster. So I think it will still get outsped by, well, this is... no, it's not that slow of an Iron Crown. I think it'll get outsped by Iron Crown under Tailwind, and Iron Crown can just click Expanding Force and not really worry about it.
Or if you're really desperate for Thomas, you can go for a potential triple and quadruple protects with the Landorus.
Potentially. I mean, if you want to get out of Psychic Terrain, but even then, the issue is that...
It gets a triple protect!
That's another protect. That's wild.
Yeah, 3 straight protects for this Landorus Incarnate. Icy Wind, will it connect? It will connect onto the Flutter Mane, so yeah, even though you got the triple protect, I don't think your offensive measures and your speed control is going to be helpful to you anymore. It's just Landorus versus the world with a -1 speed drop and underspeeding both of PK's Pokemon right now.
Yeah, I think you needed to protect with the Flutter there if you were going to also protect with the Landorus, because now the Psychic Terrain goes down.
And there is the concede button. Pongsukan, Kingsukhon, aka PK, wins this round 1 matchup with a 2-0 swift victory here to start Gym Challenge 28. That was really impressive.
It was really impressive. It was really nicely played from both sides. I think they both played around the run conditions really interestingly, and I do think PK definitely kind of picked things up in the second game, figured out a lot of the tendencies of Thomas, especially in the early parts of the game. Obviously, a lot of stuff changed in the leads, but I think that PK did a really good job of kind of managing around some of these Pokemon, especially that Flutter Mane, which is really a threat towards the later parts of that second game. But just kind of managing it enough, keeping the Tornadus barely around. Like, I don't know how bulky that Tornadus was, but it was certainly just bulky enough to get the job done.
Yeah, and also that Covert Cloak really came in handy in that game too, to avoid that speed drop. It would have got in front of that Icy Wind here. And, you know, that's just how Psychic Terrain plays in this game, metagame, and it's pretty good to when you get the speed control and then you get the Iron Crown at full power without Expanding Force, and then it's just, it was only a matter of time before the Iron Crown was going to go off, and that game 2 Terra on the Yokerbomb was definitely a good idea, but it just wasn't executed properly.
Yeah, I think that I got the idea, but I think at some point you probably needed to protect it, play around it a little bit more, like just going for a Spiky Shield that turn 2, because not Spiky Shielding turn 1 and then getting it in the second turn and then getting rid of the Hearth Flame that turn and keeping your Ogre Pawn at near full HP would have been really, really huge for that battle, and just going for the attacking instead was kind of strange. Or even just going for like a Sucker Punch into the Ogre Pawn. I don't know.
Yeah, but either way, congratulations to PK for winning round number 1 here. We're going to take a bit of a break here as we get set to go into our next round once we get our results in. So you do not want to miss out on this action on Gym Challenge 28. We'll be right back.